Nearly 1 in 3 households in the UK is now struggling to pay basic bills, while food banks in cities like London and Manchester are serving record numbers of families every single week. Inflation may appear to be cooling on paper, but in real life, wages aren't catching up, healthcare waiting lists are exploding, and more people are leaving the country than arriving. What if these aren't just temporary setbacks, but warning signs that the UK is closer to collapse than we've been told? Could it be that the cracks in our system aren't just financial, but social, political, and personal, and they're spreading faster than anyone dares to admit? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear changes everything. Number 1. Economic fault lines. In cities like London and Birmingham, the economic pressure is mounting to levels that many households simply cannot withstand. London, the supposed heartbeat of global finance, is now a place where even well-paid professionals are struggling to keep pace with rising rents, surging energy bills, and food costs that climb faster than their salaries. Birmingham, once the industrial powerhouse of the Midlands, is facing waves of layoffs in manufacturing and service sectors, leaving entire families uncertain about tomorrow's income. Studies consistently show that when financial insecurity becomes a constant backdrop, productivity suffers. People become distracted, stressed, and less capable of making sound decisions. This isn't just theory. It's real life for countless middle-aged workers who wake up each morning calculating how to stretch their paycheck across overdue loans, children's school expenses, and the simple necessity of keeping the lights on. Imagine a parent in Birmingham who spends hours at work yet still returns home with a nagging worry of missed mortgage payments, or a couple in London cutting back on groceries to keep up with rent. These aren't extreme cases anymore. They're fast becoming the norm. The deeper impact is subtle but devastating. Less time for health, for personal growth, for simply breathing. Stress doesn't just empty bank accounts. It robs people of their ability to focus on anything beyond survival. Yet even under these harsh conditions, there are ways to safeguard routines and mental well-being. Experts suggest simple but effective strategies, like carving out protected time each day for walks, journaling, or family meals, that create a sense of control amidst chaos. Prioritizing sleep, limiting exposure to constant negative news, and practicing mindfulness techniques can act as buffers against financial anxiety. While none of these erase the larger economic storm, they provide small anchors that prevent individuals from being swept away by constant worry. The cracks in the UK's economy are deepening, and the pressure in cities like London and Birmingham reveals how fragile the balance truly is. But understanding the link between money stress and productivity, and making conscious choices to guard one's time and health, may be the only way to endure this phase of uncertainty without breaking down completely. Number 2. Housing and social breakdown. In Manchester and Bristol, the housing crisis is no longer just a headline, it is a daily reality grinding people down. Rents have soared to levels that swallow half, sometimes more, of an average household's income, while the number of available properties continues to shrink. Families who once dreamed of settling near their workplaces or children's schools are now being pushed further out, into distant suburbs or satellite towns where rent is marginally lower but the cost is counted in hours of commuting. Every morning, thousands of workers leave their homes before sunrise, squeezing onto crowded trains or inching through traffic on the motorway, only to return long after dark. By the time they step back through their doors, the day has been consumed not just by work but by the punishing journey in between. This relentless cycle erodes energy, strains relationships, and chips away at both mental and physical health. The overcrowding that plagues central areas of Manchester and Bristol adds another layer of stress. Families crammed into small flats with little privacy, young professionals forced into shared housing long after they should be able to live independently. The lack of space means poor sleep, constant background noise, and little opportunity for rest. Research consistently shows that insufficient rest and chaotic living environments reduce productivity, weaken immune systems, and increase the risk of long-term health problems like hypertension and depression. For middle-aged workers, many already stretched thin by financial obligations, the impact is multiplied. They are not only exhausted from the commute but also less able to recover in homes that no longer feel like sanctuaries. A worker in Manchester may find themselves too tired to cook a proper meal, relying instead on cheap, unhealthy food. A parent in Bristol may have little time to help their child with homework after hours spent traveling back from the city. These daily sacrifices might seem small in isolation, but together they form a quiet breakdown of social fabric. Over time, communities weaken, productivity drops, and individuals lose the sense of control over their own lives. Housing has always been more than just walls and a roof. It shapes how much time we have, how much energy we can spend, and whether life feels manageable or like an endless uphill battle. Number 3. Healthcare strains. In Liverpool and Sheffield, the healthcare system has become a waiting game, and for many, it feels like time is running out. The NHS, once celebrated as a pillar of reliability, is now overwhelmed with backlogs so severe that patients wait months, sometimes over a year, for basic treatments and specialist appointments. A retiree in Sheffield with chronic knee pain might be told to wait 6 months for surgery, leaving them trapped between enduring daily discomfort or paying privately, which many simply cannot afford. In Liverpool, families sit anxiously through long delays for pediatric or cancer care, knowing every day of waiting adds to the weight of uncertainty. This strain has forced people to adapt in ways that reveal both resilience and desperation. Increasingly, individuals are turning to natural remedies and self-care practices, not out of preference but necessity. Herbal teas for sleep, turmeric for inflammation, stretching routines to manage back pain. These aren't luxury wellness trends, they are survival strategies when formal healthcare feels out of reach. Yet, there is also an unspoken cost. People are expected to manage conditions on their own without the reassurance of professional guidance, leading to anxiety and fear of making things worse. From a productivity standpoint, this health limbo is disastrous. Pain and illness sap energy, making it harder to focus at work, manage family responsibilities, or maintain any sense of routine. A simple cough or untreated infection can spiral into weeks of fatigue, forcing workers into a cycle of absence and catch-up that drains efficiency. Experts suggest that while waiting for formal care, small hacks can help preserve well-being. Setting fixed sleep routines, gentle exercise like walking or yoga to keep circulation strong, and using mindfulness practices to reduce stress. Even something as simple as proper hydration and balanced meals can mitigate the wear and tear caused by long waiting periods. But these are only patches over a widening crack. The reality in Liverpool and Sheffield is that healthcare, once a foundation of stability, has itself become fragile. People are not just waiting for treatment, they are waiting for reassurance, for relief, for a system that feels like it's slipping further away. And in that gap, the strain doesn't just harm health, it steals time, productivity, and peace of mind. Number 4. Social media and productivity collapse. In Glasgow and Edinburgh, a quieter but equally destructive crisis is unfolding, not on the streets, but on the screens in people's hands. Rising mental health concerns linked to social media addiction are becoming impossible to ignore. For adults over 40, who didn't grow up with constant connectivity but now rely on it for news, work, and social life, the effects are particularly draining. Many find themselves glued to their phones late at night, scrolling endlessly through negative headlines, divisive debates, or curated lives of others that fuel comparison and dissatisfaction. This doom scrolling doesn't just rob people of sleep. Research has shown it shortens attention spans, increases anxiety, and leaves individuals mentally exhausted before the real day has even begun. In Edinburgh, a professional may spend hours online after work under the illusion of unwinding, only to realize that precious time with family or rest has slipped away. In Glasgow, retirees often fall into the same trap, scrolling to stay connected but ending up isolated, fatigued, and more worried about the world than ever. The productivity toll is significant. Energy that could have been spent on creative projects, relationships, or even simple self-care is drained into a digital void. Yet breaking free is possible with small, evidence-based changes. Studies suggest starting with time blocking, setting clear boundaries, such as no screens 1 hour before bed and no checking phones first thing in the morning. Replacing these moments with simple activities like journaling, light stretching, or preparing the next day can reset focus and reduce anxiety. Another effective strategy is the 20-20-20 rule. Every 20 minutes of screen time, look 20 feet away for 20 seconds, which not only protects eye health but also interrupts the trance of scrolling. Turning off non-essential notifications, limiting social media apps to specific time windows, and consciously choosing long-form content, such as books or documentaries, over endless short clips can also retrain the brain for deeper focus. Importantly, reconnecting with offline communities, joining local groups, exercising with friends, or spending more time outdoors, replaces the hollow connection of screens with genuine human interaction. In Glasgow and Edinburgh, where digital fatigue is silently eroding lives, these small steps can be the difference between feeling drained and reclaiming control of time, focus, and emotional balance. Number 5. National identity and migration pressures. In Leeds and London, a less visible but deeply unsettling shift is taking place. People are leaving, and not just those seeking adventure abroad, but skilled workers who feel the UK no longer offers them stability or opportunity. The rising trend of migration outflows is creating what many economists call a brain drain, where doctors, engineers, researchers, and other highly trained professionals pack their bags for countries promising better pay, more affordable housing, and reliable healthcare systems. In London, the epicenter of international business, the loss of such talent means reduced innovation and a shrinking pool of expertise that once fueled the city's global status. In Leeds, a city that relies heavily on skilled workers in education, manufacturing, and healthcare, the departures are felt in everyday services. Longer hospital wait times, fewer teachers in classrooms, and industries struggling to stay competitive. For the individuals making these decisions, the dilemma is painfully human. A software engineer in Leeds weighing whether to uproot their family to Germany for stability, or a young professional in London torn between loyalty to their home country and the lure of a more secure life abroad. These choices are rarely easy, often involving leaving behind aging parents, close-knit communities, and cultural identity in exchange for the unknown. Yet the productivity consequences are undeniable. Every departure weakens the system, stretching the remaining workforce thinner, creating more pressure, and feeding the very cycle that drove people away in the first place. On a broader scale, the outflow also reshapes national identity, raising questions about what it means to belong in a country where faith in the system is eroding. Surveys already show that uncertainty about the economy, combined with housing costs and healthcare struggles, are among the top reasons people consider emigrating. The result is a dual loss, not just of workers, but of the future they could have built within the UK. When those who might have been leaders, innovators, and mentors choose to leave, the gap they leave behind cannot be easily filled. Leeds and London are warning signs of this silent migration crisis, where the search for security and dignity elsewhere becomes more compelling than enduring the slow grind of uncertainty at home. Number 6. Political instability and leadership gaps. In Westminster and Cardiff, the pulse of politics has grown increasingly erratic, with frequent policy U-turns and wavering leadership leaving citizens in a constant state of uncertainty. Each new announcement seems to be followed by a reversal weeks later, eroding trust in government decisions and making long-term planning nearly impossible. For businesses, this instability translates into hesitation. Companies delay hiring, investments stall, and projects are shelved because no one can predict what regulations or taxes will look like in 6 months' time. But the impact doesn't stop in boardrooms. It trickles directly into homes and communities. Families in Cardiff, for instance, find themselves anxiously waiting to hear whether energy caps will be extended or scrapped, knowing that the difference could mean hundreds of pounds lost or saved each winter. Pensioners in Westminster neighbourhoods struggle to budget when pension policies shift unpredictably, while parents juggle uncertainty over benefits that might disappear just as quickly as they were promised. This constant back and forth erodes what might be called time security, the ability to plan daily routines and future goals without fear of sudden disruption. Instead of focusing on productivity, families are consumed with contingency planning. What if the policy changes again? Or, what if support vanishes next month? This uncertainty is corrosive, stealing not just financial stability but also mental bandwidth. People spend more time worrying, less time resting, and even less time engaging in the kind of meaningful work or family life that keeps society strong. Research shows that unstable leadership and inconsistent policy environments create higher levels of stress in populations, often manifesting as anxiety, sleep problems, and reduced efficiency at work. The irony is stark. While leaders debate and flip-flop in Westminster, the fallout lands squarely on individuals trying to manage their day-to-day lives in Cardiff and beyond. The cracks of collapse become visible here, not as dramatic events, but as small, relentless stresses that wear people down, making the system feel fragile and untrustworthy. Political instability doesn't just weaken institutions. It seeps into households, chipping away at confidence in the future and the simple ability to plan tomorrow with certainty. Number 7. Productivity crisis in everyday work. In Leeds, Glasgow, and Birmingham, a quiet but damaging crisis is unfolding in offices, factories, and homes alike. People are working longer hours, yet producing less. Studies reveal that UK productivity levels continue to lag behind those of major EU nations, a gap that has widened in recent years despite advances in technology and remote work options. The paradox is striking. Employees in Leeds often clock in early and leave late, yet their output per hour remains low compared to counterparts in Germany or France. In Glasgow, workers in service industries complain of burnout, reporting that no matter how much time they give, tasks seem to pile up endlessly, leaving them drained with little sense of accomplishment. Birmingham, with its mix of manufacturing and administrative roles, reflects the same pattern: endless overtime, rising exhaustion, but stagnant results. For middle-aged workers especially, this dynamic is demoralizing. They feel as though their lives are being consumed by work that yields diminishing returns, with personal time evaporating in the process. Instead of enjoying family evenings or pursuing hobbies, many collapse into bed, only to repeat the same cycle the next day. The sense of working more but achieving less is not just anecdotal. It's supported by research showing that long hours paired with poor rest drastically reduce efficiency, while chronic stress lowers cognitive performance. Yet within this grim reality, there are ways to reclaim lost time. Experts suggest simple but powerful restructuring of routines, breaking work into shorter, focused blocks with scheduled rest periods, prioritizing the most important tasks first thing in the morning when mental clarity peaks, and minimizing multitasking, which has been proven to waste rather than save time. Even integrating short walks or physical activity into the day helps reset focus, leading to more effective output in fewer hours. The key insight is that productivity isn't about grinding longer, it's about working smarter within the time available. By redesigning daily habits, workers in Leeds, Glasgow, and Birmingham could recover hours otherwise lost to fatigue and distraction, allowing space not just for professional achievement but also for health, family, and personal growth. Without such changes, however, the UK risks cementing a cycle where effort rises, efficiency falls, and collapse inches closer with each unproductive day. Number 8. Generational divide and aging pressure. In London and Manchester, the weight of an aging population is pressing down on every layer of society, and the cracks are beginning to show. As more people live longer, pensions, healthcare, and social care systems are stretched thin, creating tensions that ripple through families and communities. Younger workers, already dealing with rising housing costs and stagnant wages, now shoulder higher taxes to keep these systems afloat, while simultaneously facing fewer opportunities for career advancement or financial stability. At the same time, the sandwich generation, middle-aged adults, find themselves caught in a relentless squeeze. In London, it's common to see parents still financially supporting grown children who cannot afford independent living, while also caring for elderly relatives with increasing health needs. In Manchester, families often juggle part-time jobs with full-time caregiving, sacrificing personal ambitions and well-being just to keep households functioning. This double responsibility doesn't just exhaust finances. It drains time, energy, and emotional resilience. The contrast is striking. Younger workers express frustration at carrying what feels like an unfair burden, while older generations fear their hard-earned contributions are no longer enough to guarantee a secure retirement. The result is growing resentment, widening the generational divide at a moment when solidarity is most needed. The link to collapse becomes clear when both ends of society, youth and elderly, require more resources than the system can supply, leaving the middle class, long considered the backbone of stability, to crack under the pressure. Productivity suffers as workers split focus between careers and caregiving, while long-term growth falters because opportunities for the younger generation dry up. Research shows that when societies fail to balance these demographic demands, economic stagnation and social unrest often follow. In the UK, London and Manchester serve as vivid examples. Overworked professionals burning out, young adults delaying independence, and elderly citizens left waiting for overstretched services. It is a cycle that perpetuates stress and weakens the very structures meant to hold communities together. The generational divide is no longer an abstract concept. It is a daily battle for time, money, and dignity. And when the group expected to support everyone, finally breaks, the entire foundation of stability risks collapsing. Number 9. Global position and external shocks. In Liverpool and London, two of the UK's most vital trade hubs, the fragility of the nation's position in the global economy is starkly visible. These ports, which handle a significant portion of imports from food to fuel, are increasingly vulnerable to global conflicts and supply chain disruptions. Post-Brexit, the UK stands more exposed than ever, having lost much of the cushioning provided by EU trade structures. Every hiccup in international shipping lanes, whether from geopolitical tensions in the Middle East, energy disputes in Europe, or logistical bottlenecks in Asia, hits British households directly. When ships are delayed in Liverpool, supermarket shelves in northern cities feel the shortage within weeks, and when imports stall in London, energy prices ripple across the entire nation. The result is painfully relatable: higher food costs, unpredictable utility bills, and shrinking household savings. A family in Liverpool may suddenly find their weekly grocery shop costing 20% more, forcing them to cut back elsewhere, while a London commuter faces skyrocketing fuel costs, eroding any spare income once reserved for savings or leisure. These pressures are magnified by the reality that global instability rarely comes as a single shock; it arrives in waves. A conflict abroad pushes up oil prices. A supply chain jam raises the cost of essentials. Currency fluctuations add yet another layer of strain. For the average household, this constant uncertainty makes planning nearly impossible. People feel trapped in a reactive cycle, forced to adjust budgets monthly, sometimes weekly, just to keep pace. The bigger picture is even more unsettling. As other nations with stronger safety nets absorb these shocks more effectively, the UK's fragile system buckles under pressure. Without robust buffers, whether in trade policy, domestic production, or social support, the nation remains dangerously exposed. Liverpool and London illustrate this vulnerability vividly. Ports that once symbolized strength and connectivity now highlight how dependent and fragile the system has become. Every delay, every disruption, every external conflict feeds into the cracks already running through the UK's economy and society, pushing the country closer to a collapse that may not come with a bang, but with the slow suffocation of households ground down by forces far beyond their control. When you piece it all together, the economy, housing, healthcare, productivity, migration, leadership gaps, generational strain, and global shocks, the picture is more than numbers on a chart. It's the lost hours you'll never get back, the health that wears down quietly, the families stretched to breaking. Have you felt these cracks in your own life, or noticed them spreading in your city? Share your story in the comments, watch our previous video for even deeper insight, and support us, because we pour heart and effort into bringing you the truth. Please, subscribe to our channel. It's just one click, but it means the world to us.